Alright, it's Henry again, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the 1:100 scale B Club Gundam Sandrock. And this is a resin kit that was made by B Club back in 1996, shortly after Gundam Wing's first TV airing. And here's a quick look at the box. We got pretty simple box art, just the name of the mobile suit, and then a picture of the painted and completed kit. And there's a little bit of art on the side, nothing on the top or bottom except a barcode. And that's pretty much it. Very, very simple box. And here's a quick look at the manual. It's basically just a black and white printout showing the parts. And then on the other side, the construction. Very, very simple construction. And of course, being a resin kit, when you first get it and put it together, it's going to be molded in this tan color. So painting is definitely going to be required for this kit. And with a little bit of paint, this is what the kit ends up looking like in full color. Now I went with pretty much the standard Sandrock colors, did a little bit of pre-shading and highlighting. The decals that you see on here do not come with the kit. This kit doesn't come with any decals at all. I actually used these decals from the Master Grade Gundam Death Scythe EW. So I used those to kind of make the kit look a little bit more like a Master Grade. So as far as the stuff you get with this kit, you obviously get a Sandrock, you get 2 heat shortels, you get a shield, and you get 2 extra weapons for holding the heat shortels. And that's pretty much it. It's a very, very simple kit. And it's more or less high-grade quality. I think when they made these, they made them with the intention of stylistically matching up with the 1:100 scale high-grade Wing Gundam, Death Scythe, and Shenlong that had already been released. So I think that's what they were going for when they made Heavy Arms and Sandrock. So let's go ahead and go over articulation. One important thing to note is that straight out of the box this is a fixed pose kit, which means it doesn't have any articulation. Now you could just pin it together with metal pins and metal tubes and make it fixed pose if you want. It'll still look nice, but I went the extra mile and added articulation to the entire kit. So it is fully articulated, and I did a so-so job. It's not as posable as a Master Grade or anything, but it's about as posable as the other high grades in the Gundam Wing series. So let's take a look. Now for the head, I put that on a ball joint, so it doesn't have very much up and down, but it does have some side to side, and it can't rotate 360 because of the shape of the head, but it'll go about that far to each side. Now the shoulder armor is connected. If you've ever bought a MSIA Gundam action figure, you'll be very familiar with this little shoulder connection here, because that's pretty much the exact same way the shoulder armor is done on MSIA figures. And up under that I've basically just got a Revoltech joint for the shoulder, and it can go 360, it can actually go really far up. But obviously with the shoulder armor on, it's not going to go nearly that far up. It's going to go about that far with the shoulder armor. And you've got a little bit of rotation at the shoulder, not 360, but it can rotate enough to you'll be able to pull off some poses with it. I had the elbows a double jointed system with 2 little metal pins doing the hinge, and the top one was just too fragile. It wasn't going to hold up. I was really afraid it was going to break, so I removed the top elbow joint and just made it a single bend. So it bends at the bottom, and it's going to bend about 90 degrees, which is good enough for what I needed to do, which is just look good on camera. And the wrists are on a ball joint with a polycap, same exact thing that pretty much every other high-grade Gundam model is going to have. I've got the waist on a peg, and it can pretty much go 360. The front skirts and side skirts I've got on a little Kotobukiya T-joint, so they can go up about that far, rotate and wiggle a little bit. The side skirts can go up pretty far, actually, much further than you would actually need it to. The hips I've got on a polycap ball joint as well. They can go out about that far, forward until they hit the front skirt, back until they hit the back skirt, and they got a little bit of rotation there. The knees, I will admit the knee joint is a little bit loose. I can probably tighten that up with a little bit of super glue. But I did keep the double jointed joint for the knees, unlike the elbows, and the top one is actually very, very tight and the bottom one's loose. And it can't get a full 180, but it's almost a 180. And yeah, I know it looks kind of awkward, but then again, 99% of the time I'm going to have my Sandrock in a standing pose, so I'm really fine with it looking that way when it's bent. I'm more concerned with how it looks when he's standing up straight, and it actually looks pretty good. The ankle armor actually is not attached to the leg at all, which is actually kind of a cool, effective way of doing it. As you can see, it just kind of goes up and down. It's not really attached to anything. It just kind of rests on top of the foot. And the ankle is a polycap ball joint. It can go side to side. Got a little bit of forward and back, not much, and it can pretty much rotate 360. So the articulation is about high grade quality. Like I said, nothing that you're going to see on a master grade, but it's good enough for me. Now, as for Sandrock's weapons and accessories, like I said, you get a shield, and it's got some detail on the back of it. It's got a simple peg, and he's got a hole on each forearm where the shield can peg in. Also, for storage, you got the exact same hole on the back of the backpack. You can store the shield like so, and that'll actually come in later with the cross crusher. You also get 2 heat shortels, and I've put 2 polycaps in each side of the backpack. And you take this little end of the heat shortel right here, and they just slide in nicely into those polycaps, so they can be stored on the backpack. This one on the one side doesn't like to stay, but get it in there and it'll stay pretty snug since those are polycaps rather than just a hard connection. And like I said earlier in the video, Sandrock comes with 2 hands to hold the heat shortels. Now admittedly, the hands don't hold them very well. They're very, very loose. But if you just, it's really going to be a case of balancing them in the right place rather than Sandrock actually holding them. But if you do balance them in the right place, you can get some pretty nice looking poses with it holding them. And of course, Sandrock's signature attack is the cross crusher, and we can do that. All we gotta do is take the backpack off, and it's got the same exact peg and connection on it that the shield has. We'll just leave the shield connected to the backpack like so. Put the heat shortels into the backpack just like we were doing for storage mode, and then connect the whole thing to the arm. And the shoulder armor might get in the way a little bit, but if you just kind of move it around and get it into place, you'll get it in a pretty nice position. And there you go. Now, unfortunately, the way I did the polycaps into the backpack, the little heat shortels aren't going to be able to, you know, close in and out like they would on the 1:144 scale no grade. But then again, just to be able to have the cross crusher, at least in this position, I think is pretty satisfying. So I'm glad it turned out this way. And if you've got some 1:100 scale Gundam Wing bad guy kits, you can do a pretty nice little display with the cross crusher in action. Now that's pretty much it for the normal Sandrock, which is the kit I bought. And since these kits are so hard to find, I resigned myself to the fact that I was never going to find a Sandrock Kai. So I made some modifications and made my own Sandrock Kai parts, as you can see here. Basically, I just scratch built these with a combination of ply plate and resin casting, and all we got to do is just switch out the parts on normal Sandrock here, and we'll have a Sandrock Kai. Now, I guess the first one we'll go over are these vents or thrusters that go into the shoulder armor. Now basically, you've got 2 little metal pins up here. I've drilled 2 small holes into the top of the shoulder armor, and all you've got to do is just plug them in there, and now you got some nice thrusters on the inside of the shoulder armor. And here you can see them on both sides. I don't think these thrusters turned out great, but then again, they're not all that bad either. And since most of the time you're going to be looking at Sandrock from the front, you're not going to be seeing them too much anyway, so. The next modification to make Sandrock high is going to go on the backpack. We're going to have to remove the shield, and unfortunately, we won't be able to mount the shield onto the backpack for Sandrock high. It'll have to stay on the arm here. Put that in place. And I've built 2 thrusters out of ply plate, and the top one has got a peg right there. This is going to peg into the same place that the shield was pegged into. So that'll fit on like so. And then the smaller one goes on the bottom. It's got 2 little metal pins, and that'll fit onto the bottom of the backpack. And there we go. We got some nice space-use thrusters on the backpack. And I think they actually turned out really, really well as far as their shape. So you can see I scribed some lines in there just to give them a little bit more detail. I think I might have made them a little bit bigger than they ought to be, but overall I still think they look pretty nice. Next up, we have to change out Sandrock's back skirt. Now this I made removable. Let me just take that off. And I made a resin recast of it. As you can see here, this is the original, this is the recast, and then I modified the recast with a thruster on the back of it, very similar to the thrusters that are on Sandrock's side skirts. And it's got the same little connection, so we can just plug that in place, and there we go. Now the last modification isn't really a modification to Sandrock's body, it's actually an accessory, because Sandrock High has a beam submachine gun. Now I pretty much completely scratch built this out of ply plate. I used some little metal tubes for the barrel at the end, and I actually think it turned out pretty nice. I based it on the MSIA Sandrock's beam machine gun, and I think it turned out well. I actually added a little bit of articulation to it as well. This part right here can flip around and form, I think it's called a stock is the appropriate term for that part. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, when the Master Grade Sandrock was announced, it was shown that it had this exact same feature. Gundam Ground Type also has a similar feature on its machine gun, so I wanted it to do the same thing on mine, so I added it in. This just rotates on 2 little metal pins I put on the side there. Now, since the original Sandrock kit doesn't come with a trigger finger hand, what I did was I took the hand for holding the heat shortelle, and I made a resin recast of it. I cut off the fingers and separated them, and then put some metal pins to glue them back in place, and made basically a trigger finger hand. Now, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't hold the beam submachine gun very well, but it does hold it. Put that in there, and it's pretty much just being held in place by friction, but it does hold, so I'm happy with it. Now, one last feature I want to show off is that you can connect the beam submachine gun to the back skirt, and the way they did this on the 1:144 scale kit was just by having a huge peg sticking out of the gun and putting it into the hole in the back skirt, and I really didn't want to do that. So I put a magnet inside this thruster that I modified onto the back skirt, and put some metal paperclip segments inside the machine gun. And if you put it in place, the magnet picks up the machine gun and it stays on the back skirt pretty securely. And one last thing I want to show off before I go is that this kit actually has some really nice detail on the undersides of the armor, similar to a Master Grade. So you can see it's got detail on the bottom of the shield, up inside the shoulder armor, and even on the undersides of all of the skirt armor. So I thought that was a really nice touch, for especially being a resin kit from 1996. Alright, that about does it for my review of the 1:100 scale B Club Gundam Sandrock. And I really, really like this kit. This is actually one of the most prized kits in my model kit collection, simply because it's so rare, and because I really love Gundam Wing, and I really love B Club, so put Gundam Wing and B Club together, and I just go nuts. But I definitely recommend this kit to anyone who likes Gundam Wing or just likes resin kits in general. The real problem is being able to find it, because I consider myself very fortunate to have found the original kits, because even recasts of this are pretty hard to come by. I have seen them out there, but they don't come along very often. I think eBay is probably going to be your best place to look, because even E2046 has recasts of it listed, they've never been in stock to my knowledge, so just tracking them down is going to be the hard part. But when you do, I think you're going to get a really nice resin kit, very, very nicely detailed all over. Like I showed you, the details on the underside of the skirt armor and just details all over are really nice. They didn't overdo the panel lines like they did on the Gundam Wing high grades from back in the 90s, so that's another feature that I really appreciate. One possible turnoff to this kit is that it isn't articulated. It's made to be fixed pose, and you could do what I did and articulate it yourself and add all the joints, but just know that that's going to be a lot of work. And even this is, I can't even remember how many times I've done this. This is probably at least the 5th time I've added joints to a fixed pose kit, and even then they didn't come out perfectly. Some of the joints are still not all that great. Some of them are kind of loose, like the knee joints, and the shoulder joints are kind of unstable. But even so, if you want to articulate it, go ahead. Just, trying to get them as much experience as you can. Anything that's going to give you experience in modeling is worth it, in my opinion. So, that about does it. I've said pretty much everything that I can think to say on this kit. It definitely gets a thumbs up for me, and again, if you can find it, definitely take the chance and get it if you're able to. So, with that, I'll see you guys next time.